Action. Welcome to another amazing episode of the Action Podcast. And today we've got a solid lineup of films as we continue the realm of summer blockbusters. Our number one movie is going to be Inside Out 2, which is the sequel to what, Pete?
I believe it was Inside Out 1.
Inside Out, yeah, that's correct. Good job. That's a Disney Pixar film that is out in theaters now, and it is currently the number one movie, and it did absolutely incredible numbers the first weekend. The second film, I was able to see a sneak preview of The Bikeriders, which will end up coming out this weekend, but we'll let you know whether or not to check that out in this podcast. We also have The Watchers, which is from the daughter of M. Night Shyamalan, starring Dakota Fanning.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's a documentary on Netflix called Remembering Gene Wilder, who of course played the iconic Willy Wonka and
amongst a million other
also Blazing Saddles, yeah, a legend. And then lastly, Pete has now seen Hitman, so he'll give it a little quick review and either back up what I said, or he'll probably even have a better thing because I've also seen it now fully, so we'll talk about it a little bit more.
It's a new segment called Pete's 2-second reviews.
Yes. So we'll get a little more into it since we just did a quick preview the last time. So with that, Pete, let's get into Inside Out 2. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. I have mine, but what is your takeaway?
Yeah, I loved the first one. My kids adored the first one. And to be honest, I had no idea that they were going to be doing a sequel to this movie. I think it was like, I don't know, maybe a month or two ago where I started seeing billboards for Inside Out 2, and I got really excited. And I know that my kids are pumped; they want to see it as well. This one is directed by Kelsey Mann, who this is kind of her main debut for a big feature film. I know that she's worked in a lot of different departments in animation. She directed a couple shorts, maybe, but this is like a real big step up for her. Basically, I thought this movie was really, really well done. Because after that first one, it's like you could really run into this risk of you've got the same four emotions, they're running the show, it's mostly in their world. But this one is about when the little girl, I forget her name,
Riley,
thank you, is now going through like puberty, and she's starting to have so many more emotions. And I thought that how they approached a young girl going through these sort of emotions and not knowing how to react to these situations, which I'm already fastening my seatbelt for when my daughter gets to that stage. I thought that they was very clever, and I thought it was really well done, and there was some real heart in this movie. And I'm really happy because I haven't really felt really great about like a Disney movie in a while.
yeah.
And this one, it did its job, and I thought it did it really well. I would go see this movie, even if you're not, even might be weird if you don't have kids and you're in there just by yourself. Like, no,
but thank you.
Yeah, because you're creepy. But this movie has a lot to offer adults as well. But definitely see it with the families. That's why this did so well this last weekend, and that's why it's going to crush this weekend too.
Yeah, I have a very similar experience in terms of, so I literally saw the first one, early last week, just because I know going into it, and I wasn't looking forward to it, but I wanted to obviously give it a fair shake and do my part. And I was definitely pleasantly surprised at it. I mean, the premise didn't really do anything for me. And like you were saying, Disney just hasn't really produced great things. Now, this is also Pixar, so it's important to understand the differential between Disney animation studios and Pixar studios, and there is one. But either way, I still just have, even with some of the Marvel things and even some of the Disney's stock is not high right now in the entertainment industry, and so that was just in the back of my head. But I always give a movie its fair shake, and like you're saying, the first one I really thought was well done, with heart, the whole nine. Really actually enjoyed it way more than I thought I would, and I would give that one a great review. The second one I thought was also a clever premise, especially after the first one, they made it work. And I knew obviously what they were, they're going to introduce more emotions, all that stuff. So I was very kind of familiar with what was going to happen in the film. But I agree with you. I thought they executed it well. I didn't quite enjoy it as well as the first one, but that's not to say this wasn't a good movie. I don't want that to come across. I'm just comparative. Sometimes sequels can be better than the original. And there are definitely elements that I did enjoy of this one, but I think just in general, I think the first one was just a slightly tighter. But there's a reason why this one did very well. It's doing well, critics, the whole nine. And so just like you, I think especially with a young fan, if you have a young family or definitely daughters, yeah, I think this is a great film to take your family to. And I thought everything worked overall. The music, see, I think that's the music I thought was solid in this one. I thought the music in the first one was fantastic. And I thought there was a lot of parts where the music I wish it was a little bit more of,
Yeah.
but I think that's maybe what it was. I've been trying to kind of wrap my head on what specifically jumped out on the first one versus the second one. And I know the music the music kind of picked up at the end, but I wish the music was as prominent as the first one. The first one I thought the music was really, really well done.
I mean, the first one, the great thing about the first one was that you were being introduced into what the world of this inside of this girl's mind would
Yeah.
actually look like, and there's really no base for how that should look in our minds, right? Like we have no idea. So I thought that they created this other world very beautifully, and each part was very cleverly done and conceived. And this one had, it's still the same setting in a way, but they did find ways to introduce new sort of like I think there was like a stress land or something like that, if I recall. And what they did with that, or like anxiety land or something like that. But there's something going on where, and I won't let it out. But it was really well done. Visually, I thought it was beautiful. And Amy Poehler is perfect in this role, as well as Lewis Black is perfect as Anger or whatever
Yeah.
his name is. But two really well casted, and then a bunch of people that maybe, if unless you're in the voiceover world, don't really know the names that well. But those two are the main stars for sure.
Yeah, my Hawke is anxiety. And I think that's probably the other reason too, because Bill Hader was in the first one, Mindy Kaling, and obviously I think they've really probably grown in terms of status. And so what I'm assuming is they just couldn't afford their voices. So that it's a little bit of a hit, but not to say that the other people didn't do just as good job.
Yeah, but this is a minor hit. This is a
Still,
really
it's a
good
minor. I agree.
movie.
It's a
This is
minor hit. I thought
a
the other
really good
ones
movie that
did
people are going to
okay,
enjoy.
but the guy's not built. But Bill Hader is a incredible voice. And so
That guy's
you're going
next
from like
level.
a Hall of Famer, all-star level guy to a solid starter. You know what I mean? So again, a little detail, but nothing to cry about. You can tell the movie still works. So
Right.
check that out. Next, we have the Bikeriders, and this was on our one of our anticipated movie, and I didn't really know much about it. I don't even know if I've seen a legit trailer on this, but in terms of just who's in it and even like topics, this has heavy hitters. I mean, Tom Hardy, he's one of the most talented actors out there. And then you have the rising star Austin Butler, who rising might even be an understatement at this point because he is a bona fide star.
And
And it,
hopefully he doesn't talk like Elvis, like in this movie, like he has done since he played Elvis.
no, he has a different voice. The one and then
Oh, good.
Jodie Comer's in this one as well. She was in Free Guy, and then she was in
That's right.
the Ridley Scott film with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, Last Duel. She was in that one as well.
Yeah, I love that movie.
But she has an incredible so she definitely has like a unique voice in this one. Tom Hardy has a unique voice. This is 1968 Midwest, 1968 to 1973 Midwest, and the story is basically about the motorcycle gang, the Outlaws, and how they started. They changed the name in this one. They're called the Vandals, but it's ultimately kind of like the creation of this biker gang in the Midwest, and it's based off a true story. There's an actual photographer that went and stayed with these guys. And so there's, at the end of the movie, which is cool, they have actual like real photos of like what this movie's based off of. So that's kind of the cool thing. But
Sounds like Almost Famous almost.
yeah, it's kind of Almost Famous meets like a little bit of Stand By Me meets
Sons of Anarchy.
Sons of Anarchy meets what was the other one I had? Oh, Outsiders. Outsiders. It definitely has an Outsiders kind of vibe to it.
Right.
And that's what I think for me was probably the best comp in terms of like it's just as interesting as that.
Do it for Johnny, man.
Yeah, I mean this is a
Johnny.
little tighter than that film. I mean that film had a lot of younger stars though too, and I think this one has some talent in it. I mean there's some real talent in this film. I think it was well written. I think it's just an interesting story, especially if you like kind of the subject matter. But I love the style of it. You definitely feel like you're in that time period, and kind of like again, like Stand By Me. There's like great music, also a part of it, and I definitely thoroughly enjoyed it. It's actually a little bit more humorous than I would have anticipated,
Mm.
but it's like I said, if you like kind of those movies that I'm talking about, I think you'll like this film. I was really happy to see it when I found out that's the movie we're seeing. I was stoked. So this movie comes out Friday. Check it out.
Yeah,
Uh,
I can't wait. This is going to be good.
yeah. So awesome. Let's move to the next film, which is The Watchers. I think this could be an interesting talk that we have here. I'll let you go first, Pete, and then I'll kind of counter.
Did you see it?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Oh, good. Okay, so as mentioned, this is directed by the daughter of M. Night Shyamalan, Ishana Shyamalan, and stars Dakota Fanning. This is about Dakota Fanning is this artist who gets stranded in this forest in Ireland, and she finds shelter. She becomes trapped inside of this cabin almost, or like this building with
Yeah.
three other strangers, and she has no idea what's going on. They're like, we have to stay here and we have to stand in front of this thing because the watchers want to look at us like all day. They have like they want to observe us. And these are like pretty awful creatures that are just going to rip you apart if you try to leave the woods. Um, and I'm not gonna I don't want to get into it in terms of like how the story progresses and the ending of it. Obviously, I want you to go out and see this movie and comment about what your thoughts were. I thought personally, I'm like it was fine. I feel like this is like her first film, and I can see her talent. I'm talking about Ishana. Um, I can see where she's headed, and she's going to have a pretty good career as far as I'm concerned, just based on this film. Um, I think that she just took one too many lessons from her dad, and it just screamed an M. Night movie, but didn't execute on being an M. Night movie. It was still fine, but you know, yeah, I kind of expected more from this film, to be honest. I thought Dakota Fanning was great. The other characters were great. It's a good story. The creatures are cool. Yeah, that's my review. I would go and see it because I really am curious about everyone's
It,
thoughts about it.
it's yeah,
And
it
I think a lot of people are going to have the same problem. Like, I don't think I could watch it without having that M. Night shadow looming over it. Like,
yeah.
and that's unfair.
It's a unique movie, and I didn't expect it to be an M. Night Shyamalan movie just because I knew, well, one, this to me, the comp for this one is old, where it's kind of like this very kind of unique premise, and it's like not explanatory, but you're still kind of curious and on this journey of like, where is this going to go? And I didn't mind where it went. I kind of was intrigued, and it sets up. There's most likely going to be a sequel to this, possibly, because the box office is not treating it extremely well. But I kind of liked where it was heading. I agree with you. I don't think it was a perfect film, but I thought it was an interesting film enough and a unique-ish film. It was to me, A Quiet Place was also kind of a comp as well, not as tight as A Quiet Place, because I think Quiet Place was
Next level.
In that kind of genre, I think it was pretty flawless. Whether it's the cinematography, the music, the sound design, the uniqueness, I think it was a pretty solid movie. I think this is like, kind of the poor man's version of A Quiet Place meets Old, where it's like, again, like how one that how are they going to get out of this? I thought was interesting, and then kind of where it goes, it kind of becomes a bigger story. Because at one point, I was like, all right, that's cool, and I thought the movie was actually going to end, and then there was this whole kind of second chapter to it, and I was like,
Yep.
oh, I was like, okay, good, because
Me too. I thought it was going to end too, and it didn't.
so I was kind of happy about that because I was like, okay, like it worked, but like it was just like okay, not like, and then I kind of like the ending a little bit better, but still, it's just I think it's because it's such kind of a unique story in itself. So I think it's just I don't know if there's an A+ version of this movie anyway.
No,
I think it's just a different story, and it take it for what it is. But like I don't know what I would have done differently to been and without like fully rewriting something. But even then, like I don't know where I would necessarily go for it.
no.
To me, it's just kind of a take it or leave it type of a film where it's like you either like where it went or it didn't, but it's not like "Oh, if they would have done that, this movie would have been the best movie ever. I just don't think that's what the subject matter is. It's
But without giving it away, like when
yeah,
you thought, because I think we're thinking about the same moment, when you think the movie ends and then it doesn't, at that point, this is probably the letdown for me the most, is that it was, I mean, you almost guessed what was going to happen next. Like you just knew that that was going to be the next part.
yeah,
Um, and so it was kind of like, all right, fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's a good movie and you should see it. And again, I think you should support this movie in a way because I think that this girl deserves more directing jobs. I thought she did a fantastic job.
yeah, yeah. I agree. I think it's definitely worth watching, and I thought it was entertaining that it deserves a look. And I think I wouldn't call it a genre film. I think it's a higher than that. But I think within this world, this genre of like I don't know,
Thrillers.
kind of like creepy thriller. Yeah, I thought that was solid. And
Yep.
yeah. All right. Next we
If
have
I ever direct a movie for the first time and it turns out that good, then I would be really happy. So I'm I'm
yeah.
I'm talking about somebody who's done something for the first time that I have never done. So it's kind
Well,
of
to me, I don't know who wrote it. I didn't look who wrote it. To me, this is like it's all based off the script. Like I just don't know what the potential of this script really truly is, if that makes sense. So I didn't have an
yeah.
issue with it, but I would definitely watch the second one if the second one came out. Like it was that interesting. The only other part too, just oh, she did write it. The other part too would have been like kind of what sets off the journey doesn't make 100% sense, but that's a nitpicky thing.
Yeah, a little nitpicky.
It's just like it never they never really kind of paid that off. Like
Yeah.
why are they way there anyway? Like if no one has really goes there in that
Right.
area where they're at, like it just didn't make any sense to me. But like yeah, neither here nor there. Anyways, all right, let's move on. Remembering Gene Wilder on Netflix now, documentary. Pete, what do you got?
Yeah, this got an 8.0. And yeah, this is I don't know if it was because I'm just so nostalgic when it comes to Gene Wilder on so many levels. Like this guy just makes me smile, makes me laugh. He's just somebody that and also somebody who can be 100% serious and dramatic at the same time. It's very Robin Williams, right? Like before Robin Williams started doing like Dead Poets, right? Like this is a funny dude. Gene Wilder is, by all accounts, one of the sweetest people that you could have ever met. And I think that everybody that he worked with had this admiration and love for him. And this is a documentary that kind of walks you through, and it's in his words. Like he's like basically through interviews and stuff like talking about his life and about his career. And Mel Brooks is in it significantly talking about that pairing, how he found Gene Wilder, how they became such good pals, how they started making films. and then you get into Wonka, and I kind of liked it because they only touch on Wonka for a brief period of time, and then they continue moving forward because this is really remembering him and about him getting dementia and that journey towards the end of the documentary. It's just so heartbreaking. It's like, it would be the same if Michael J. Fox was no longer with us and they put out a documentary and then like the whole last quarter of the thing was like his actual like dying. It would just like break my heart because he's one of my most beloved people in the entertainment industry, right? Gene Wilder and Michael J. Fox are two people that just got these afflictions, and it's just terrible. But this is a fantastic documentary. It's going to make you laugh. It's going to make you, maybe cry a little bit if you cared about Gene Wilder as much as I did, but it was awesome.
Yeah,
Netflix. And you can watch it on Netflix like right now.
yeah, for sure. I saw it. I've been meaning to watch that one, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that one. Yeah, I would assume. I mean, I look at it two different ways. One, I mean, if you're a fan of Willy Wonka and you, for some reason, you've never seen the original Willy Wonka, I mean, one, go see that. But then I think that would be like this guy played one of the most iconic film characters of all time. So if that kind of interests you, then it's like, hey, learn about this guy. But then he's
Talk
also
about what he brought to the role as well, because a lot of the
right.
stuff in there was not in the script. The director didn't want it or whatever,
Yeah.
and he basically just fought to like the him walking out on the with the cane and the hobbling.
Mhm.
It was supposed to be him just walking out. And he's like, it'd be better if I did this instead. And it crushed. I remember that scene for the first time when I watched and when I was
Yeah.
7, 8. I remember that scene specifically. It's amazing. It's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Absolutely. All right. And then lastly, we're gonna go in a little bit deeper on Hitman, which is also on Netflix now. That stars Glen Powell and Adria Arjona. Uh,
Yeah.
so let's talk about it, Pete.
So after you're done with Gene Wilder, then you can start watching The Hitman right after that. Yeah. 7.0, that's a great score for a Netflix action comedy, more comedy than action. Yeah, so Glenn Powell is a professor, a teacher, and at night he works with the police to, try to entrap people who want to kill other people. So he's like a pretend assassin or whatever. And then he meets this girl through one of his assignments, and um, she ends up being a suspect. And so he likes her so much, and then it's like a romantic comedy that it turns into. And I thought she was really good. She played the part of funny, strong, vulnerable, sexy. Like she played every part really well.
Yeah.
And when she got pissed, you wanted to get out of there because she would kill you, literally. And so it's like I thought that he did an amazing job. I mean, Glenn Powell he just crushes.
Yeah.
The story I thought was well done. I thought it was a fun time. And I mean, what more can you ask for when you get a movie on Netflix? But to have it to be this good is amazing.
Yeah. And again, it's Richard Linklater, who, if you're not familiar with him, he did Dazed and Confused. He's done uh School of Rock, Boyhood, like we mentioned. So he's, this guy is very good at what he does. And
Right.
so this movie had a solid tone to it overall, entertaining.
Set up
It's
perfectly.
it's based off a true story, which I think that's what really I think just adds an element to it, because it's, you're always curious on true stories versus just as completely made up. And then, like you're saying, you're seeing kind of Glenn Powell in a different role than he normally is, and he's
But
shown.
still classic Glenn Powell.
Yeah, for sure. He's adding a little bit more layers to himself, and so yeah, I finished it. Obviously, the first time I told you it was solid, but I really enjoyed it. It's a movie I would watch again for sure, and I think again it's a really good date movie. I think, and then it's also, I think, a movie too that you can kind of also put in the background, and there'll be parts where you can just kind of catch on, because I think that it's going to have that kind of legs to it. So this is a movie that I don't think will go away in your film library. This is a film I think you can put on the weekend and watch. I think it's going to have some solid legs to it. So I really enjoyed it. I think seven's a good number for it. I really enjoyed it. So awesome. That's going to wrap it up for this episode, everybody. Next week, like I mentioned, the Bikeriders is kind of like the number one release of this week. So Pete will give his viewing of it when it comes out because he's been looking forward to it. But there's a couple other major releases coming out. The Exorcism, which is stars Russell Crowe.
Is this part two with that the of
Yeah,
the
I
other
believe
one?
it's a prequel, no?
I don't know. Okay, well, hopefully it's good. I mean, I don't remember being a huge fan of that first one.
You didn't love it, but I don't think you absolutely hated it. You just thought for that genre, it was like whatever. But this one, yeah, I mean, man, it's got a low rating, but it's only 400. Um, then we have The Kinds of Kindness, which is the new Yorgos. I'm not going to try and pronounce his last name right now, but of course, he was the big hit last year with Poor Things. So, he's a very stylized director. Not sure what the movie's about, but I
Yeah,
believe this has a little bit of buzz. This was at a film festival, I want to say Cannes or one of the major ones. So that will also be coming out. Trigger Warning, which will be on Netflix. That comes out on Friday.
described as a female first blood. That's interesting.
That's Kinds of Kindness.
No, that's trigger warning.
Oh,
So
nice.
she's like a Sylvester Stallone,
Nice. Well, it's Jessica Alba.
right?
So, she's been kind of gone. I know she's been running businesses and stuff like that. So it's good to see her back on the screen. I'm excited for it. I'm a big Jessica Alba fan, especially if it's an action type movie. That sounds like an amazing premise. I'm in. There's a Celine Dion film coming out. I don't know if it's a documentary. I'm assuming it's like a concert movie, but it's called I Am Celine Dion.
I
Can't
want
wait.
to get those. I don't know. I don't. I'm not sure I want to watch that because I'm gonna get those songs in my head and it's gonna
Uh,
be a mess.
yeah, we're not necessarily promising we're going to see that film, but and then there's also a movie called Thelma, which again, not promising we're going to see that one, but just letting you know it's out there.
We'll give it a
And I,
shot.
I don't even know necessarily what Thelma's about, but that's going to wrap it up for us. Please make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and make sure you check out some of our other episodes. We did one of Paul's old ass movie classics. We did Stalag 17, which is kind of a POW war camp movie, directed by Billy Wilder, who also did Some Like It Hot, with like Marilyn Monroe. So if you're into kind of like old movies, come check these movies out. Our next movie we're going to be watching is M, which we're actually doing that podcast tonight on, and then that'll be out tomorrow. So stay tuned for M as well. And then we also just reviewed Wedding Crashers, and then we'll be doing Terminator 2 as well. And then we had a new movie news, which we do a lot of updates on the MCU.
Crimson Tide. We did Crimson Tide as well.
Yes, but that's not. I haven't edited that yet.
That's fine.
Next week. That'll come on next week. So
Get excited.
yeah, get excited. We got a lot of content still coming out. So thank you for watching. Please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And with that, Pete, that is a cut. Thanks, guys.